So, 2020 has been full of surprises, most of them pretty bad. But there was one good surprise. A few months ago, a comet that no one expected came into view and quickly became the must see, must photograph astro target of the year. Since then, there's been a plethora of YouTube videos on how to capture and process the comet, but nothing really from a bortle 9 light polluted sky like where I live. This is a story of my hunt for Comet NEOWISE in New York City. So my first attempt started in the wee hours of the morning. I packed up my equipment, set my alarm at an ungodly hour, woke up at that ungodly hour, and proceeded to walk a few blocks from my apartment to get a northeastern view. And unfortunately, there were too many buildings in the way, so my first attempt was unsuccessful. I turned to Google Maps to scope out a better spot, and that turned out to be on top of a parking garage just off of the Roosevelt Island Bridge. So after setting up my equipment, I patiently waited for the comet, and it never came. I mean, I'm sure it was there, I just couldn't see it, and upon closer inspection, I think it was due to some really low-level clouds blocking its view. But I wasn't going to give up. So around this time, the comet was starting to stay later in the evening sky, so I switched to an evening attempt. And of course, the clouds rolled in. Because the evening comet was now positioned in the northwest, I had to scope out a new spot, so back to Google Maps. I settled on Hallett's Cove in Astoria, which seemed to have a promising view of the northwest horizon. So I set up again, and I waited. And I still couldn't see anything. I did get some duck swimming, so not all was lost. So before I continue, let me talk about my equipment. I brought along my Skywatcher AZ-GTi Goto mount, my William Optics Redcat 51mm apochromatic refractor, and my ZWO ASI 294 MC Pro cooled camera. For wider shots, I relied on my Canon T5i DSLR. So this was actually my 6th attempt, and I still had nothing to show for it. And there was also talk of the comet getting dimmer, so with each passing day, I felt like I was running out of time. I did have one more idea. You see, the problem was I'd been shooting from Queens, where I live, and the comet is actually on the other side of Manhattan. So there's this whole layer of obstruction, not only of tall buildings, but of massive light pollution. So what I needed to do was skip past that layer, which meant shooting on the other side of Manhattan, the west side. This required actually going into Manhattan, something I haven't done since the city shut down in March due to the pandemic. I have to admit, it was pretty surreal taking the subway again, seeing how empty the trains were and the stations felt like a ghost town. Well, I got to the pier and found a dark spot just north of it and quickly set up. And of course my star alignment wasn't accurate, which affected my Goto mount. This meant I had to manually eyeball where the comet was. The problem was I still couldn't see the comet, so how did I know where to aim my scope? So I tried panning around with my telescope, but no luck. You know, if this year's taught me anything, it was definitely not to expect things to go the way I imagined them to. It's the theme of 2020. I mean, maybe I should chalk it up to something I'll just never get to see in my lifetime. And then, and this is what I love about New York, a random stranger found it with his binoculars, and he helped guide me to the target. I mean, it still took a while to find it, but when it finally came into my field of view, I was speechless. So finally, all that time I spent was worth it. And listen, I know I didn't get the greatest shot of the comet ever. In the end, I'm just happy that I got to see it, and I got some decent data. But also the fact that when it seemed that all was lost, I got help from a kind stranger. That is so very New York. And just for a moment, I forgot that we were in the middle of a pandemic. So thanks Eben Stent, my kind stranger, and thanks Comet NEOWISE. Amongst all of the disappointments of the year, you certainly did not disappoint.